Hello friends, my name is Marines, and today I want to talk about 10 books that are coming out in 2023 that I'm super excited to read. I've seen videos like this from other people. I love watching them about like all of the books that they're excited about, but I decided to really focus in on 10 because I can read the back of the book blurb for like a million different books and like 99% of them will sound appealing to me in some way. So I could just sit here and just like list a bunch of books that are coming out next year, but instead I want to give you like the things that as of now I am the most excited about. And so that means that a lot of the books on this list are from authors I've already read. So I don't know that this will be like revealing a ton of new releases for you as much as it will be revealing what I'm excited for. So let's dive into it. First up is Family Lore by Elizabeth Acevedo. I have read all of the books that Acevedo has published, and my thing with her work, which has been young adult to this point, has always been that I super like enjoy it and appreciate it, but I know that it would have meant everything to me. Like I would have loved it had I read it as a teen. And so I cannot express to you how freaking excited I am that Family Lore is an adult novel. So this story is about the Marte family and the women therein. Flora has a gift to be able to predict somebody's death date. And so she decides she wants a living wake and she starts to plan and organize it. And so people are like, wait, is she gonna die? Is one of us gonna die? And that's why she wants them to be able to attend. Her three sisters are also dealing with other things. So Matilde is dealing with infidelity in her marriage. Pastora is the reserve sister, but this whole thing with the living wake really motivates her to try and help her sisters fix their problems. And Camila is the youngest one and she's often the forgotten one, but she decides that she no longer wants to be taken for granted. We follow each of the women in this family sort of past and present and across locations, and it all spans the 3 days sort of leading up to the wake. Not only am I like, okay, Elizabeth Acevedo, like I'm gonna read it, but the description of this sounds so good. I love the magical realism element. I don't always do like super good with multi-generational stories, but this is like contained enough. It is like the sisters and then a generation lower in the cousins. And the thing about this being sort of like multi-generational family story that really appeals to me is that it is contained in a small amount of time. Even though we're flashing back and forth, it is like the 3 days leading up to an event. And it's 384 pages according to Goodreads. So it also seems like it's going to be pretty condensed. I don't like super long drawn out like family histories. So this is like right up my alley in terms of taste, and I literally cannot wait to read it. Like, who do I need to speak to get this book in my hands immediately? Next up is Silver Nitrate by Silvia Moreno-Garcia. I've talked about her a lot during Vlogmas already, so you guys know that she is one of my favorite authors currently writing. Whatever she writes, I'm gonna read, and even if I don't love it, like even if it's like a 3 stars, which all of her books have been at least 3 stars to me, they're always so interesting. Silver Nitrate sounds like it's going to be in like the horror, mystery, thriller sort of area of genre blending that Moreno-Garcia does, and it also sounds pretty close to Signal to Noise in terms of like what it's doing, and Signal to Noise is one of my favorite of her works. So in this story we're following Montserrat, who is a sound editor, but as a woman in the 90s in Mexico City, she's often alienated in this profession. She has a best friend, Tristan, who is a faded soap opera star, and she's in love with him, but he has never really noticed her. They find out that Tristan is living next to a famed director who sort of like faded from the public eye, and he has this wild story about being cursed in a movie he was never able to finish, and magic and Silver Nitrate, and he wants Montserrat and Tristan to help him finish the movie that he was never able to finish. But as they get involved in this, Montserrat realizes that she's being followed by a dark presence, and Tristan starts seeing the ghost of his ex-girlfriend. Movies and magic, and just knowing how well Moreno-Garcia has been able to capture like sights and sounds and senses in her writing overall makes me incredibly excited for this one as well. I'm going to say that I'm excited for all of these. Please just go with it. I'm also telling you why, so just let me tack on the I'm excited for this at the end, okay? I called myself out for it. Next up I have Warrior Girl Unearthed by Angeline. I read Firekeeper's Daughter, which was her debut, and absolutely loved it, and I'm super curious to see what she keeps doing in this space of like YA mystery. In Warrior Girl Unearthed we follow Perry, who gets into a fender bender and has to to spend her summer working to pay back her aunt for the damages to the car. In that summer program, she links up with the other people also working there, and they form like a little group of misfits. After attending an event at a local university, Perry finds out about the remains of Warrior Girl and how they're being held in a museum. And so she starts to learn more about how to request ancestral remains and other sacred items to be returned to her tribe. But what she and the other misfits figure out is that the only way to really go about this, since the museum is using legal loopholes to hold onto it, is to stage a heist. And on top of all of that, there is an additional element of mystery as women begin to disappear. I love the way that the mystery was treated in Firekeeper's Daughter, because I felt like it was a very slow and quiet mystery that really propped up the sense of community and the character work in that book. So I'm super curious to see if that holds here. And I just also love the idea of this group of people on their summer break, just like, we need to plan a heist. That is so delicious to me. Okay, next up I have Happy Place by Emily Henry. I actually haven't read Book Lovers yet, but I really appreciate what Emily Henry is doing with these sort of contemporary romances. I also find her writing to be so good. I really find it witty. I love her banter and her dialogue. And even in the ones that, again, I haven't like loved, People We Meet on Vacation, for instance, was just like sort of fine for me. But like in the moment of reading them, they read so smooth and so easy. So if she's writing something, this is another one where I'm like, whatever Emily Henry is writing, I'm going to read. This sounds very much like a second chance romance and a little bit of fake dating, which I love both of those things. So this is about a couple who were dating for years but broke up 6 months ago and never told their friends. So now all of their friend group is on a week-long vacation and they decide to just go and play along like they're still together. I really love second chance romance and fake dating. I think second chance romance can be difficult to get right because so much of the connection happens off screen or in the past. So I'm curious to see how she builds that and how she really has us buy into the fact that these were two people who were once in love, and then sort of reignites that connection throughout the book. Next up, I have Greymist Fair by Francesca Zappia. So a few years ago, I had read Eliza and Her Monsters, and I really enjoyed that. There was something about it that really worked for me in terms of having me invest into the main character and the story within the story and the setup of all of that. But I hadn't read another Zappia until this year when I read Cats and Jammer, and this is a book that is like super not for everyone. And I honestly have a hard time even parsing out my feelings about it, especially about like what the ending message really is. But it is a book that like super affected me emotionally. It was weird and strange. It had some things that I thought were really well explored and some themes around bullying that I thought were interesting. And it just kind of reignited my interest in Zappia as an author. I very much could see her being in this category. Like I've talked about sort of like Emily Henry and Silvia Moreno-Garcia, where I read all of their work and even if it doesn't all work for me, like it's interesting in some way. Like there's something there that I always kind of want to explore. So Zappia is coming out with a new book. This one is called Greymist Fair, and it is a YA murder mystery fantasy. So in the town of Greymist Fair, everyone knows that the woods are creepy and sort of off limits, but a young tailor finds a dead body on the road sort of next to the woods. And as she starts to investigate what actually happened here, she reveals more secrets and more strange happenings in Greymist Fair. The descriptions say that this is inspired by some lesser known Brothers Grimm fairy tales. I'm not like super well versed in fairy tales, so I'm not like, oh my god, Brothers Grimm, but I am excited that this is fairy tale inspired, that it's got dark fairy tale vibes, that it's a murder mystery, which I freaking love murder mysteries. Love it. And always with Zappia's work, she includes art along with it. So I can't wait to see Greymist Fair through her art style. Okay, I'm going to be really honest with this next one that I had Witch King by Martha Wells on this list. I binged all of the Murderbot Diaries last year and I love Murderbot so much, but I've never read anything else by Wells. So when I saw that she was coming out with a new book, I was like, yes, put it on the list. But literally as I started preparing to record this in my Discord, somebody shared, I think it was a tweet from Martha Wells's editor, who basically said that she received the manuscript for the next Murderbot, which is coming out sometime next year. I don't have any other information, like literally this just happened. All I know is that fall 2023, there's a new Murderbot Diaries coming out. So instead of, I mean, Witch King was originally on this list, but like, I don't know, I'm just gonna put like a general Martha Wells slot here to let you know that if this is true, Murderbot is coming out next year. Like, it's happening for me. I'm caught up on the series. I've talked recently about how this is a series that is like greater than the sum of its parts for me. I just love the entire project. Even if each individual novella is like a 3 or 4 star read, like it isn't the best, most perfect thing I've ever read in my life, but it's just solidly entertaining. They're comfort reads. I love the character and the character dynamics between Murderbot and the AI and human friends that they very reluctantly make. So yes, with no information as of the recording of this video, but a tweet that I kind of saw in my Discord, this slot is for Murderbot. Next up, I have A House with Good Bones by T. Kingfisher. I came to T. Kingfisher for the first time this year, and I've read 2 of their fantasies, which are more like cozy fantasies, so I have not tried their horror yet because, as you guys know, I'm not a huge horror fan. I read like a couple horror books a year, but typically they're on like that cusp of like mystery thriller with maybe a little bit of horror, like Silvia Moreno-Garcia, sort of like splashes of horror, or like they can be gothic horror. And A House with Good Bones is a southern gothic horror, and I love haunted houses. And this is like a haunted house situation, so I'm super excited about this. So this is about a woman named Sam whose brother tells her that their mom is acting strange. Sam goes back to her childhood home, and what she finds is like the home is super different. It's all painted sterile white, and their mom is like jumping at every small noise. Sam discovers a jar of teeth like behind the rose bushes, and the yard is being circled by vultures. So she starts to investigate what exactly has her mother so scared in her own home. I hope it's not too spooky for me, but I think that this will be a good introduction into Kingfisher's like horror books. Hopefully. Okay, next up I have Encore in Death by J.D. Robb, and this is the next book in the In Death series. I don't know what to tell you other than I'm like 55 books in, so like she's gonna put out 56 and probably 57 next year, and I'm gonna read them both. The In Death series is an adult sort of like mystery romance. It's from author Nora Roberts about a homicide detective in the future in New York City, and it's a super long running series, and each book is a standalone murder mystery, but it also is tracking the relationship between the main character Eve Dallas and her billionaire husband Rourke. It's not one that I super highly recommend to people because it is very dated in the beginning, because it is essentially propaganda. There is a level of remove because we're talking about like cops in the future, and they're like not exactly our kind of cops. Guns are outlawed and that sort of thing, but there are definitely still moments in the series where you're like, this is propaganda. It is like a procedural though. Nora Roberts does procedurals pretty well, and now I'm like so invested in these characters, and a lot of these side characters have my entire heart. Eve Dallas also is a character that I just care deeply about. There are huge content warnings for this entire thing for child sexual assault and for PTSD and trauma, and you're very, very deeply exploring and very closely exploring Eve's trauma and how that has stopped her from forming relationships, and then watching her form those relationships and navigate like falling in love and being married and having friends and having a mother figure. Like all of that is what made the series incredibly bingeable for me this year. And I've said it before, I'm going to say it again, I'll say it when I wrap up my year of reading, that even though these books are highly imperfect, they saved my reading year when I was like in the worst slump. Like I could not mental health, brain capacity wise read anything, but I could still binge these books. So I'm in this now for the long haul. As long as Nora Roberts is going to be publishing 2 a year, I guess I'm going to be reading 2 a year. Next up, we have The Golden Frog Games by Claribel A. Ortega. This is a middle grade fantasy that is a sequel to Witchlings by Ortega. I read Witchlings this year, and I really am enjoying Ortega's middle grade fantasies. They are so warm and cozy. They are so easy to read. I always binged them in one sitting. I found Witchlings to be super magical. It had a lot to say. It was funny. There was like a moment that I like laughed out, like guffawed out loud. The magic system is Latina inspired. So there was so much here that was just so beautiful and warm and cozy. So I'm excited to get a part 2 and to spend some more time with all of these characters and their cute little friendship and found family, which I love so much. I went back and forth about what to give this 10th slot to, and I'm going to go with Delicious Monsters by Liselle Sambury. I have not actually read Sambury's like debut novel, so that's why this one is a little controversial for my list of 10, but I do already have an arc of this book, and this is another one, another horror. Like, who is she? Who am I? But this is one that is like on the cusp of like psychological thriller. So we're following two timelines. In the past, we have a girl named Daisy who can see ghosts, and so she kind of just deals with that ability up until she's dumped by her boyfriend. So when her mother inherits a mansion, a secluded mansion, she decides to just go with her, and something happens to Daisy there. 10 years in the future, we have Brittany, who has a web series called Haunted, and so she goes to the mansion to investigate what happened to Brittany 10 years ago. I met Liselle before. She was at BookNet Fest and on panels a number of years ago, and it was very cool to see her whole writing journey. She's got an AuthorTube channel as well, so she's been really great to follow in her whole publishing journey. So I'm excited to try out her writing. I know I skipped over the first one, but I can't say no to an arc in hand. That's it for me today. I would love to hear if any of these books are on your radar or what some of your most anticipated reads of 2023 are. This is going to be really funny to revisit at the end of next year to see how many of these 10 I actually get to, but I'm pretty, like, I'm feeling good about this list of 10. Like, it really feels like 10 books that I will actually read and not just a bunch that maybe I will. We'll see. We'll roll the date back at the end of next year. Thank you so much for watching this video, and I will see you guys soon. This is part of Vlogmas, but I did miss out on posting this yesterday. This is now the second day that I've missed posting a video, but I was literally in the middle of recording this when something happened at my job, and it led me to rage resigning from my job with absolutely no backup plan. So yesterday was a day. And then I spent a lot of the night just like sitting around thinking to myself, what have I done? But also like, I don't regret it, but also what am I gonna do now? Long story short, I was tired of the disrespect and, and I just let my emotions guide me. So wish me luck in the next couple of weeks. I really have to decide like how I'm gonna feed myself, which is great because one of the last videos I did was about all the money that I spent on books this year and me being like, I have a job and disposable income and like jokes on that girl. So anyways, I'm just going to keep numbering my Vlogmas videos like in order of like when I actually do them, not according to the date. So we'll see how many I get done in December. If we can hit 25, that would be great. Literally at this point, if I can clear like 12 days of Christmas, it will be awesome. 25 is a stretch goal, you know. We're doing as much as we can.